Today we're going to be talking about point of view. Point of view is all about who is telling the story. When an author sits down to write a book or short story, the author has to decide who will tell the story and how much he or she will know about the characters. There are three main points of view that we see in narratives. The first type is first person. This is when the major character tells the story, when in this case we may never know the name of that main character. Pronouns you want to look for include I, me, we, and us. You'll also find my, mine, and ours. We live in a life of first-person point of view. We can only see from the inside of our own heads. That's why when we speak, we say things like, I'm going to the gym, or I am flying, or I'm going to play a Justin Bieber song. Just kidding, I wouldn't do that to you. To find out point of view in a story, we look for code words. Here's an example. I knew I shouldn't have let my grandma go down there. She isn't too steady on her feet to start with, and then she gets those dizzy spells. But she insisted, and the next thing I know, she's tumbling down those stairs like a gymnast. To help us identify the narrator and some plot elements, we want to code the story. To start, we identify the pronouns used. Here we see the pronoun I. This immediately tells us that the story is in first-person point of view. Then we look at plot elements, like she's not steady on her feet, she insisted, she's tumbling down those stairs, and from this we learn the conflict. The next type of point of view is third-person limited. There is a narrator and he or she only knows about one major character. We don't get to go to places that the main character doesn't go. The pronouns you want to look for are he, she, him, her, and they, them. Imagine you're reading a story about a character named Dominic, a teen with an obsession for pandas. Dominic takes his friend Aaron to the zoo. Dominic heads straight to the panda cages, but after they have been there for 20 minutes, Aaron is ready to go. Dominic stays and Aaron walks away, but we are forced to stay with Dominic and his thoughts because our narrator is only allowed to stay with Dominic. Hope you like pandas. Now let's look at our example text again. John stood next to his grandmother. He knew he shouldn't allow her to go down the stairs alone. She wasn't steady on her feet. John had seen her grab the nearest object when dizziness overwhelmed her. John was afraid that he wouldn't be able to help her. First, let's identify the pronoun codes. In this case, our main character is actually given a name, John. Then the pronouns our narrator uses are his, he, her, and she. We know that this has to be third person. We have the same conflict going on here as we did in the first text. John's grandma is walking somewhere by herself, but we know it's limited because we only know what John is thinking and doing. The final type of point of view is third-person omniscient. In this case, the narrator tells a story about more than one character, at least two major characters. The reader gets to go everywhere, even when some of the characters are not there. But the pronouns to look for are also he, she, him, her, and they, them. Have you seen the movie Finding Nemo? If so, this movie is a great example of third-person omniscient. Nemo, one of our main characters, is lost out at sea, and his father Marlin and his friend Dory are searching for him. The narrator jumps back and forth between Nemo's story and Marlin and Dory's story. Now let's look at our example text again. John stood next to his grandmother. He wanted to help her down the stairs. He was very protective of his grandmother. He remembered the last time she had fallen down. Mrs. Smith looked at her grandson, and she moved a strand of hair from her face. She was determined to do this on her own to prove she wasn't a helpless old lady. Let's look at the pronoun codes again. We have the same pronouns as before, his, he, her, and she, and we know what John is thinking here. He is very protective of his grandmother. But there is a change when we read Mrs. Smith looked at her grandson. The narrator tells us what Mrs. Smith is doing and thinking. We know that this has to be third-person omniscient. Now it's time for us to practice identifying point of view. I want you to use your Notability app as a whiteboard for this, so turn your iPads up and open up Keynote. Create a new note page and write this key. A is first person, B is third person limited, and C is third person omniscient. Now make sure you pause this part of the video and read the text and mark your answer in your Notability. Finally, here's your mission. Log in to our Collaborise Classroom site and respond to the questions completely. Make sure you complete the entire assignment as this is a mini quiz and will be graded for completeness and ideas. Good luck!
Created using Powtoon.